TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel will not relent until all of Hezbollah's border installations are eradicated. A deadly Hezbollah strike kills 4 IDF soldiers and wounds 59 others. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterates Israel's call on UNIFIL to withdraw from a number of its border posts. Israel continues to battle the Islamic Republic of Iran and its separate proxies on 7 separate fronts. And while the IDF, in close cooperation with the other organizations of Israel's defense establishment, are making consistent gains, the raging war continues to exact a heavy price. The Iranian proxy Hezbollah launched hundreds of projectiles over the weekend, including approximately 320 on Saturday alone, when Israelis marked the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur in Hebrew. Meanwhile, on Sunday evening, while firing dozens of rockets, Hezbollah also launched 2 one-way unmanned aerial vehicles toward Israeli territory from Lebanon through the Mediterranean Sea. Israel's aerial defense array successfully intercepted one of those UAVs, while the second managed to penetrate Israeli airspace, directly targeting an IDF training base mess hall, killing 4 soldiers and wounding nearly 60 others.
I am here in a military base in the center Israel close to Binyamina. At around 7 o'clock in the evening, a Hezbollah drone infiltrated from Lebanon and struck this base. The results are difficult and there are casualties. At this point, there is complete operational control on the incident. All the casualties were evacuated to hospitals. We are now busy with notifying their families. All the troops in the base were asked to call home and inform their families that they are fine. We are managing the incident. We will study and investigate the incident and how a drone infiltrates without alert and strikes the base. The threat of drones is a threat we have been dealing with since the beginning of the war. We are required to bring about better protection. We will investigate this incident, learn and improve. Our mission is to better protect our soldiers and citizens of Israel.
Meanwhile, on Israel's northern front, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, during a visit to an observation post overseeing southern Lebanon, asserted that every Lebanese village which Hezbollah developed into a forward base will be destroyed.
In the observation I just had, you can explicitly see the entire first line of Hezbollah villages spread out in front of us. What characterizes these places is that each and every one of them is a military target and an underground outpost with many tunnels filled with munitions. IDF troops found hundreds of RPGs, machine guns, anti-tank missiles, and all of these things the IDF is destroying now, target after target, underground and above ground. I instructed the IDF forces from the general staff and below that every such place not only be destroyed, but that we will not allow the return of the terrorists into these places. This is essential in order to maintain the safety of the residents of the north. The IDF's action is powerful, very strong. We are operating in the entire depth of the field. We have destroyed infrastructure in Beirut, in the Bekaa Valley, and all across Lebanon and now on the contact line, and we will continue this operation until we reach the required operational achievement.
In one of the referred to Hezbollah villages deep behind enemy lines, IDF Chief of General Staff, Lieutenant General Herzia Levi, as well as ISA Director Ronen Bar, held a joint situational assessment with the IDF Northern Command Commander, Major General Ori Gordin, and the 91st Division Commanding Officer, among other field commanders.
We continue to operate against the enemy and will not stop until we ensure that we can safely return the residents evacuated from the north, not just now, but with a future outlook. If anyone considers rebuilding these villages again, they will know that it's not worth constructing terrorist infrastructure because the IDF will degrade them again.
It is important to know that tensions are rising between Israel and a number of European nations after 2 UNIFIL peacekeepers from the Indonesian deployment sustained light injuries when a tower at the UNIFIL headquarters in Nakura sustained a hit.
Definitely, this is probably one of the most serious events or incidents that that we have been seeing and witnessing the last 12 months. That there's been intense shelling throughout the last 12 months, but yesterday one of our positions was hit by an Israeli tank. The position was actually UNIFIL headquarters in Nakura, and it was a tower with 2 peacekeepers monitoring the situation. The tank hit the tower. 2 peacekeepers actually were injured, luckily not seriously, but they're still at the hospital. That's very serious.
The UNIFIL spokesman went on to acknowledge that Israel had asked the UN contingent to withdraw from a number of their positions amid intensifying battles.
We know that a few days ago the IDF asked us to move from certain positions along the Blue Line. This is a known fact, and we have over 29 positions along the Blue Line, like the Irish in Maruna Ras. And we decided to stay. There was an agreement with all the troop contributing countries that it's important for the UN to be there, to fly the UN flag, and we continue to monitor the situation. We are there because the Security Council has asked us to be there. So we are staying until the situation becomes impossible for us to operate.
It is important to highlight that it remains unclear whether the UNIFIL site was struck directly or by a tank shell's debris. Nevertheless, Italy, France, Spain, Ireland, and other contributing members of UNIFIL have condemned Israel and demanded an explanation.
Dell'area, come sapete, il quartier generale della missione UNIFIL e 2 basi italiane sono state.
As you know, the headquarters of the UNIFIL mission and 2 Italian bases have been hit by gunfire shots fired by the Israeli forces, and therefore I cannot, even as Italy, not to condemn again what has happened. It is unacceptable. It violates what was established by Resolution 1701 of the United Nations. The Italian government, as you know, has strongly protested with the Israeli authorities. On this issue, together with Emmanuel Macron and Pedro Sanchez, so France and Spain, we have also decided to make a common declaration. As well as with colleagues, we are working to imagine, always on the subject of Lebanon, during the G7 defense that will take place in a few days, to organize an initiative, also involving the other nations that have participated in these years, to implement our joint efforts to strengthen the Lebanese armed forces, a theme on which you know that Italy has been committed for a long time, and is not alone behind these tables.
Finally, discussing Lebanon alongside the Italian and Spanish prime ministers who, like France, are historical contributors to UNIFIL, I want to say here that the 700 French soldiers involved in this force are a sign of our unwavering support and of our desire to be committed to the security of both Israel and Lebanon. It is therefore totally unacceptable to see UNIFIL troops deliberately targeted by the Israeli armed forces. We condemn it. We will not tolerate it and will not tolerate it happening again.
Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appealed to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to heed Israel's call for relocating UNIFIL troops from a number of battle-stricken locations.
I would like to appeal directly to the UN Secretary General. The time has come for you to withdraw UNIFIL from Hezbollah strongholds and from the combat zones. The IDF has requested this repeatedly and has met with repeated refusal, which has the effect of providing Hezbollah terrorists with human shields. Your refusal to evaluate UNIFIL soldiers has turned them into hostages of Hezbollah. This endangers both them and the lives of our soldiers. We regret the harm to UNIFIL soldiers, and we are doing our utmost to prevent such harm. But the simplest and most obvious way to ensure this is simply to withdraw them from the danger zone. Mr. Secretary General, get the UNIFIL forces out of harm's way. It should be done right now, immediately.
The Prime Minister further highlighted that the IDF is fighting Iran's proxy, Hezbollah, with the aim of returning Israel's residents to their communities in northern Israel.
We are marking 1 year of the harsh war that was forced on us, the war of redemption against Iran's axis of evil, which has risen up to destroy us. We are more determined than ever to ensure our future. We are more determined than ever to defeat our enemies. In Lebanon, we eliminated Nasrallah and his senior personnel. Our heroic soldiers are destroying Hezbollah's weapons, command centers, and terrorist tunnels. They are fighting forcefully to return our northern residents safely to their homes. We are not fighting the Lebanese people. We are fighting Iran's terrorist proxy Hezbollah, which has conquered Lebanon.
Netanyahu also responded to growing pressure applied on Israel by European leaders.
Regrettably, several European leaders are applying pressure in the wrong place. Instead of criticizing Israel, they need to direct their criticism at Hezbollah, which is using UNIFIL as a human shield, just as Hamas in Gaza is using UNRWA as a human shield. Unfortunately, their UNRWA is cooperating with Hamas.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken highlighted the grim situation in Lebanon that has granted Israel legitimacy to confront Lebanon's Iranian proxy Hezbollah.
One of the main challenges that we've seen in Lebanon is the fact that Hezbollah effectively has taken over many state functions, and in particular in holding on to its arms, which is not supposed to be the case. Remember, Israel was in southern Lebanon for a long time, 18 years, and it got out in 2000. And part of getting Israel out of Lebanon were important understandings that are in UN Security Council resolutions 1701, 1559, that, among other things, would make sure that forces are not up at the border between the country, certainly not irregular forces like Hezbollah, and non-state actors are supposed to be disarmed. Well, that didn't happen. And Hezbollah has posed an ongoing threat to Israel ever since.
Washington's top diplomat went on to highlight that Hezbollah's unprovoked war of aggression against Israel began over a year ago.
When the horror of October 7th happened, the next day, Hezbollah joined in, trying to create another front. In the process, the rockets and other munitions that they were launching into northern Israel forced people to flee from their homes. And some 70,000 Israelis have had to leave their homes. Similarly, in southern Lebanon, because Israel responded to these attacks from Hezbollah, you have many people who had to leave their homes. This is well before the last few weeks. This is what happened over the last year.
With Hezbollah heavily battered and the people of Lebanon increasingly expressing hope to oust Iran from their country, Blinken stressed that the United States, in consultations with both regional and international actors, are working to help the Lebanese reclaim their country by reinvigorating the leadership in Beirut.
We've been engaged in conversations, I've been engaged in conversations with countries throughout the region and with the Lebanese themselves. And what I'm getting from these conversations is a strong desire, not only on the part of many countries that are concerned about Lebanon, but especially the Lebanese themselves, to actually see the state stand up, assert itself, take responsibility for the lives of its citizens. And again, one way to do that would be by resolving the issue of a vacant presidency, but there are a number of other things that I know the Lebanese are focused on that can make a real difference. But it's fun. It's up to them. It's their country. It's their future. The United States, many other countries want to help.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. Separately, if you're blessed by our productions, which are exclusively donation-based, please consider supporting our programs with a donation. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. I'm Jonathan Hessen, wishing you a Shavua Mevorach, and God willing, we will see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.